Welcome back to the channel and welcome to another e-bike video. I left you off in the last one where we'd put all the wheels, we'd mounted all the bits on the bike and it was basically rolling. All that we've got left on that to do is like the crank, the seat, some other little tweaks, setting up the brakes and things like that. But I've bagged the bike off so I don't get any overspray on it because we're going to be working on the mudguard today. Now I've done some prep work on the mudguard. I've got this prepped off camera. I'll give you a little look at what I've been up to. So I prepped this down in 180 and really knocked it back in 180. As you can see, we've gone through here. Just where there was some gouges and deep scratches, I've just knocked them back and then worked it down to a 320. Reshaped all this with the Dremel, with a sanding disc on the Dremel, just spinning it up and just going around making a pass on all these edges and just sharpening them all up, making them look nice and neat. Then knocked it down with a 320 disc to finish it. So we finished it off in a 320. We're going to put some fiberglass and we're going to blank these off either side. So we've got one there and we've got one there to blank off because I'm only using the two bottom ones for the brackets. So we'll just blank these two off. So drop a little bit of fiberglass in just to fill the deepness of that, and then we'll finish off with some filler it over, clean it down, and then we'll give this a coat of plastic primer inside and out, and then I'm going to thin some 2K high build down, make it like a wet on wet primer, and then we're going to do 2 or 3 coats, nice smooth coats over this, let that go off, block that back, and then we can drop some base coats, move on to the airbrushing, and then we can move on to the clear coating to finish to get this mudguard matching up to the frame. So that's what we're doing today. I've got the crank turning up at some point. Amazon's dropping it off. So we've got the good old faithful baby monitor so I can see what's going on down the side of the house, because there's a note on the door saying parcels leave around the side. So we'll keep an eye out for the Amazon guy and make sure he drops it off, and I can give you an unboxing of the crank. It's just basically a new crank. The arms are black and I've ordered a red anodized chain ring because we've got red on the disc rotors on the centers. I thought the red would just match up nice to that. So I'm not going to paint that, I'm just going to leave that as it is with the black with the red. Job done. We're just going to get this one painted up today. So plenty of coffee on the menu. I'll stick you in some time lapses like before. I'll see you in a bit. Right, we've got the fiberglass in done. I've got the extractor on, that's why it's a bit noisy. Bit of fiberglass in there, I'm letting that go off. We'll be using this body filler next in there once we've sanded that back. I've decanted a little bit of etch primer and we're going to be painting the brackets that go to the mudguard. These have all been panel wiped, sanded down in 320. Because we've got some raw edges of steel, we're just going to give these some etch primer, a few coats of that just to seal it down. Then we can drop some primer on them, some high build when we come to do the high build on that, drop a little bit of high build on these and get them all ready for base coat. So the next stage is just drop a little bit of etch on these two brackets while we're waiting for the fiberglass to dry. See you in a minute. Right guys, we've got the etch primer down on them two brackets. Fiberglass is dry, so we're going to knock this back with 80 grit, knock all the top off, take it down, then with the low spots that are in there, we'll just put some filler over the top, let that dry, knock it back, and move on to the plastic primer stages. So I'll stick you in another time lapse. See you in a bit. There you go, in that last sort of time lapse we've done I knocked it back with 80 grit, all the fiberglass, sanded it down, Then I put the air blower over it right up close, and that pulls out any of the dust, and you're left with like some little small pinholes. I give it a little skim of filler, first pass of filler. We'll knock that back 1/8, knock it back, blow that off. If there's any little fine little pinholes left, we can go in with the dolphin glaze, which is that one, and that's a fine filler. You can just skim over with that. We'll re-prep it all in 320, get it all done in 320. Plastic primer, we'll go plastic primer first, over it all, let that go off, and then we'll put the 2K high build down. See you in a bit. We've got the 2K high build down. That's gone down on that really nice. Good couple of coats. That's covered up all them bits of filler. We've got it on the inside as well. Just a coat on there. Just to seal all that down, because there was some real... This mudguard had been painted and painted and painted in its life. I don't know what paints were used on it, so I was just knocking it back, seal it down with some plastic primer, hit it with some 2K high build, and then we've got a good surface to go from. I put the 2K high build on these two brackets as well, a couple of coats on them. So we're letting this dry down. I've just given this a heat lamp over for about half an hour. Just gone round, heat lamped it, all the bits. So we'll get ready for the next stage in a minute. We'll start blocking this back, just 320 over with a bit of guide coat. Flat it back for a nice surface with the base coat. Drop some silver base coat on there. Let that go off, and then we can start airbrushing. So I'll see you in the next step. There you go guys, that's the silver base coat down. I'll give you a little pan round and a close up. So that's gone down really nice. That's where the actual bits were that are fixed. So that's all nice and smooth now, both sides. So nice finish on them. Nice coat of silver. Get it a couple of wet coats and just like a little sort of drop coat, and that's gone down really nice. So that's that piece done. We've got the brackets done. Both of them are all based up in silver now. So the next stage on this is to just let this go off, let this settle down, and then we can start the airbrushing on this, get the textures across. It's basically just some steel textures on these, a few little like shadows on the creases to make them a bit more prominent on the actual mudguard, and then this will be good for clear coat. So I'll see you in the airbrush stage. Finally, we are sorted. Its mission is to get just that simple mudguard to this stage and film it and set everything up. You just see these little clips and it's like ping, ping, and it's all done. But I'm set up and we're good to go for airbrushing. Now, I'll give you a little run through of the bits we're going to be using. Nice and simple, we're just doing some steel textures. We're going to drop a couple of rivets in around the bottom. Bit of rust effect, just to match it up to the frame. We've got a couple of the brackets for this mudguard. We're just going to do some textures on them. Now, nice and simple, we've got a Scotch-Brite, nice and cheap to do this effect. So Scotch-Brite, I've got a little bit of texture stencil here. These are placemats that I picked up years ago. They were like big circle dinner plate placemats, and they're like a flexible, like plasticky type material, but they've got like a web pattern, and it's brilliant for getting like a texture down. So I've got a piece of that we can do some textures with. I'm using golden high flow acrylics for this. We've got a titanium white, a carbon black, we've got an orange oxide, a yellow oxide, we've got a sepia, big bottle of carbon black and a small bottle of carbon black. We've got some water to thin it down if we need to. I've got the Pocket Graphics by Scott McKay. There's one in there with little circles we can use for the rivets. Posca paint pen, which is around somewhere. I think it's over there. So they're the bits we're going to use. Airbrush, Takumi clips. I've just grabbed one off the shelf. You could use any airbrush to do this. What we're doing today, any of the ones that I've got, any of the Grios range or Water range, cheap airbrush, whatever you've got, you can get these effects down with this. But I'm going to use the Takumi. It's cleaned out. It was on the shelf and it was full of paint. Quick blast through and you're good to go. So the first stage on this, what you want to do is grab yourself some black, opaque, if there's any in this, a little bit of black, drop a little bit of water in, and you're basically you're going to drop a wet coat over the mudguard, just dust it on, so you're just knocking back that silver and just putting like a mist of black over it. I'm running the airbrush around about 30 psi today. I don't usually run airbrushes at that, but it's just what the air blower was set up while I was blowing these bits down before painting, so we'll just leave it at that. So a nice dusting of black. Like I say, just knocking that silver back. Nice and easy, just go around, just dust it on. That will do for that pass. So you've got a dusting of black, you can see there it's all smudged, I don't mind fingerprints on it. We're going to be dragging this off in a minute. So you've got a dusting of the golden high flow acrylics, that's what I'm using. So it's a water-based paint. So you're going water-based over solvent. So when you scratch back, you're not going to take the solvent base off because that cures a lot stronger. You'll knock back the water base first. So we're just going to be dragging back and just dragging back to the silver like this. And what you're doing is you're putting lines and textures into the paint, and it is quite warm in here today, so this is dried down really quick. And try and keep your dragging effect one way. It just makes it look a little bit more realistic going one way instead of it being all over the place. So we've knocked that back, probably not even picking that up on camera. Let's just give it its first texture pass. We'll go back in with the black. And give this another coat. So smash the paint on. Like that. Awkward to try and hold this thing. So you've got another wet coat on there, go straight in with your Scotch Brite. And now we'll start to get some darks and textures on here now. This would be easier mounted to the bike because it's like a bit more sturdy. And we're aiming for that beaten look to blend in with the rest of the bike. A little bit more down here. And just keep working it. Till you get the desired pattern that you're after. Nice and simple. So the next stage on this e-bike will be fitting the crank. I'm going to make my own chain tensioner. I looked on YouTube and you can make your own out of an actual derailleur. So I've got a spare derailleur and we're going to make my own chain tensioner, because to buy one of them you're looking at about another 25 quid when I've got a derailleur that will do the job. So we'll use that. So we're just going to go in with a little bit more black, drop the pressure down. I'm just going to go around these edges, shadow under the creases. I'm just going to darken these off around here. A bit darker there. So we'll move on to a bit of textures. We'll do a bit of rust, bit of sepia, bit of orange oxide. That'll do. Just drop a few textures in. Just a little bit of colour on the edges. Bit of texture. So I've had a little sort of texture there, like a little bit of rust texture. A little bit in these. I think that'll do, guys, on that. Nice and simple, quick. So I've got some rust textures there. I'm going to do some little scratching techniques and just highlight some of the bottoms to make them edges like they're going in. There's a little bit more texture there. So that's more than enough to blend into the bike. I'm just going to bring some more of the silver highlights out on the top and just make this a little brighter on the top piece. And where these sharp curves are, you can just go back in the Scotch-Brite and just cut the paint away. And it'll bring your shiny silver back through. So that'll do on that. We'll do a little bit of colouring in on this. That'll do on that one. We'll let that dry and we can drag that back off. Just going to give it a little bit of colour. Let them dry and then we can scratch that back with the Scotch-Brite. I need to balance this sort of here. We're going to go in with one of the Pocket Graphic stencils by Scott McKay. Pick a dot hole to spray through. We're going to go with a black. It makes it worse working because I've got the lights coming this way, so it's just blinding me. I'm getting shadows when I'm trying to airbrush. I've usually got a light above coming down, but I've not set that up. So we've got like a white dot, sort of a grey dot now over the centres there. I'm going to let that cool down a bit because this black paint that I'm using is taking a while to dry. I missed a bit. The camera overheated and turned itself off. So I've run you through the rivets, used the circle. I went in with black, then I went in with white, and just because the mudguard's going this way, I've dropped the highlight white to the top here on both sides. So go back in with your shield and just dust over an edge, then go in and drop a black dot to the centres, so you've got that's picking that up. You see the black dots on there. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go in with the white Posca. No, we won't go in with the white Posca. I'm going to get a real fine artist brush, and where that black dot is, the black dot there, you want to do a little smiley face on the bottom side. So if this mudguard's this way here, you'll be doing your smiley face to the bottom side here on that, and then that'll create, as you're looking into a little hole, because these rivets, if you've seen the rivets like this before, where you've got like it looks like a black hole in the centre, and when you look at it when the sun hits it, you'll have a highlight to the top here, a little scallop there underneath the black dot, and we'll do a shadow just under this edge here, and that'll make it look a bit more realistic. So I'll pause you a minute, grab this artist brush, and we'll crack on. Well, I had some artist brushes. Not like me to have everything to hand. They've gone. Obviously dried up and dyed, so we're going to do it with a Posca paint pen. So you're dropping a little scallop highlight. Would have come out better with a really needs to be a lot sharper. And Posca paint pens aren't that fine. But the effect's there. Drag the paint with the scalpel. Right, we'll go back in. So you've got a little scallop to the bottom, so that gives it that realistic look. And now I'm just going to drop a little bit of shading to the bottom. So there you go, there's some rivets, realistic rivets, just to finish that off and make it look like that. That piece is riveted to that piece. I'm just put a little bit more shading. Yeah, recommended guys if you're airbrushing. When I'm spraying big stuff, it's okay with the lights sort of there and there. But when you're airbrushing, as you can see, it shadows everywhere you move from left and right. Like here, you're dropping a shadow onto your work and it's so hard to see, especially if you're doing detail. I trying to do something intricate, always stick your light from above. It feels like I'm painting blind. Textures. And more. So that will do for that. That's finished. On that one, we've got the textures, the burnt textures to match what's on the frame. We've got a couple of rivets either side, as you can see there. Dropped a little bit of like the burnt sort of colour round on the edges, just to finish that off, because this mudguard will be sitting sort of like that. So your highlights on your rivets at the top. So when you look down at it on the bike, they look more realistic than when you're sort of here. So that's them bits. We'll move back onto these bits and just get the Scotch-Brite and just drag a little bit off. Now that paint's dried, and that's absolutely fine. Once these are on here, they just blend into that nice. So that's that one done. And I've just had the Amazon parcel turn up, so I'll do a little unboxing for you on the crank. We'll have a look at that, see what it's like. It wasn't expensive, about £40 for a crank, so I don't know what it's like. It was over the back gate, so the Amazon guys threw it over the back gate, so I'm hoping it's not chipped and damaged, else that's something else to paint. So that's them bits airbrushed, nice and simple. Steel textures again. I did run through this video on the bike in a previous video, but nice and easy. It's a cool look, gives you that weathered steel look. You start with the silver, drop your black on, drag it off, build your colours up, and it gives you that nice steel colouring on your panel. And it's just basically black, white. If you've got a transparent shading grey, it's really good, because you can build the textures up with the shading grey, or a transparent black. You can just build this up a little bit better, a little bit easier. But if you've just got opaque, light pass, drag it off and do a light pass again, and you just see it toned down to like a raw steel look, like you've got that there. Nice and simple. So I'll clear up and we'll take a look at this crank. I don't know what this is going to be like. You look at these pictures when you buy things on Amazon and it's like, yeah, that seems good, great price. I know what bike cranks are like. I've brought expensive bike cranks in the past, so I know what to expect when it's 40 quid, but there are some good cranks out there for cheap. So and guess where it's made? China. So well, it's not looking too bad so far. So that's the actual arm that you put your chainring on. Now, the machine quality on this is really nice. Square taper is what we need for the actual bike. These are 170mm long from your centre to your pedal there. Anodised in black, and they do like a laser etch to get this on here. So that's that one. And these are quite weighty as well. For a piece of like aluminium, it's well made. So that's your other crank arm in the black. You get your little Allen key bolts to mount your chainring, which is a 32. So as I said in the previous video, I was going to go for a smaller chainring. So an anodised chainring, nicely machined, feels quite sturdy. The best chain rings I think to go for that I've had on previous bikes are Renthal. Renthal do some really nice chain rings, nice strong. Would look the same as this, they're just different colour but made out of different material. But this seems like it's going to be fine. So you'll have your red and the black like that. So far so good guys, it should work, it'll do the job. Something to put your feet on with the pedals. So we'll move on, box this up, we'll get the clear coat set up. I want to just do a bit of black inside the mudguard. I'm going to do some stone chip. So I'm just going to aerosol in some stone chip inside in black for a little bit of extra protection because you're going to get bits flying up. So I'll do that now and then we'll get set up the clear coat. So I'll see you in the clear coat stages. Right guys, we are all done. I've gave them 2 coats of clear. Nice drop of clear coat. Let it flashed off for about 10 minutes in between. Just checked it so it was nice and tacky. And then just hit it with a second nice wet coat. So I'll give you a little pan around now and show you the finished article. So there you go, you've got all your textures running down. You've got your metal effects. You've got a little bit of sort of burnt back effect there. And then moving round to this side, you've got your rivets. 2 rivets that side. And then you've got your realistic rivets this side here. So the mudguard, the highlights will be in the right place when the mudguard's sort of mounted on the bike, because that's the bit that goes to the bottom part of the frame and the mudguard sits up like that. We've got the 2 brackets, nice and simple, just a little bit of texture on there and they're clear coated up. So them 2 are done. So that's it for today's video guys. I hope you can join me in the next one when we mount the rear mudguard, get all that fixed up. We'll tweak the brakes. We've got the crank now, so we can fit the crank, the pedals, and then fingers crossed the seat and the seat tube will be in. We've got the rear derailleur chain tensioner to make, and I want to spray that candy red to blend into the red parts of the crank and the discs. So yeah, that's what's happening in the next one guys. So thanks for watching. Don't forget, if you're new to the channel, click that subscribe, press that notification so you don't miss out on any more upcoming videos on DreadFX Custom Paint. I'll get back to you in all the comments, and thank you so much for all the comments that are coming across. Much appreciated guys. See you in the next one.